For episode 47, I sit down with Rebecca Kordecki, who's a life and relationship coach, a breathwork facilitator, a motivational speaker with over 30 years of experience helping people transform their lives, first from the outside in and now from the inside out. As a former celebrity fitness trainer, she's worked with some of the best Hollywood A-listers, athletes, high performers, and she's been featured in Forbes, Shape, Women's Health, and The Today Show. Through her signature SOAR Method and programs like Reclaim Your Heart, Rebecca helps people heal from heartbreak, regulate emotions, and rise stronger than ever. In this episode, we talk about how hitting rock bottom for her happened not once, but multiple times. Rebecca explains how each time led her to a greater version of herself. We talk about forgiveness, taking accountability, and learning to look at ourselves with the utmost curiosity and without judgment. Rebecca Kordecki, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Did we coordinate to be all black?
Yeah, I think we did. You got the text that said we're wearing black today.
For Halloween. Yeah, it's just a few days away. But I think at the end of this conversation, we'll realize that we have so much more in common. Because when you first, I think I messaged you first.
Yeah,
and we started talking and I feel like the content you're putting out and the messaging and what you stand for was so in line with what I stand for. So it's so nice to have you here.
Thank you. I can't wait to dive in. Let's go.
Let's go. So let's dive into your story. You have been in the wellness space for 30 years. For the last 10 years, you've been coaching men and women in relationships as a life coach. What started all this for you? How did you get into this work? And also, what served as the catalyst for you to change your life? Because I know there was something that you deeply struggled with for a long time.
Thank you. Thank you for that opening to this. Where do I even begin? I always say. I guess I'll start with how I ended up getting into personal development work. And that happened for me at age 30. But the catalyst for that was, and I've told my story before, but and I always feel like it's redundant, but there's a lot of people that don't know it, but I'll share. So I was adopted. I was raised in and out of foster care. I had a mom that, was dysfunctional. I don't like to label or say narcissist or any of that, but there was things, right? And so my brother and I got taken away from her at a young age and we were put in foster care. All of that kind of bouncing around, I counted one day and I had been to 12 schools in 12 years, meaning we got pulled out and moved and shifted and introduced to a new school 12 times as a kid. And so all of that stuff, right? If we know about childhood and attachment styles and all that, when you don't have the right solid upbringing, it impacts us, right? It does things to us. So as I grew up, I sort of moved out on my own at 16. There was a series of things that happened. So I started becoming a young adult, right? And the man that adopted me let me sort of emancipate myself. And so I moved out, did this whole thing about finding myself. And then I found a drug, which I thought I had found myself, but actually I ended up finding cocaine. And for the first time in a long time, I felt whole. And that's really yucky to have to say, but it was the thing that made me feel okay in my skin because for so long I didn't. And so I was 20, 21, and I fell into the drug bad. Like it was my escape. I finally felt like I could show up and feel good in my body, right? And I think that it was because I had no self-worth. I had no self-love. I didn't feel like I belonged on the planet. And the cocaine made me feel okay.
It just made life easier.
It made life easier, yeah. And so for 6 years, I became really addicted to the point where I'm surprised I'm sitting here today. Let's just say that. And at 26, I got clean. I found myself one day in, LA. I was on Lankershim Boulevard in North Hollywood. Yeah, exactly. And I was literally, I always say this, it's the 3 Bs. I was bloody broke and barefoot. I'd gotten into a fight over drugs that night. So I had a bloody nose from the fight. I was barefoot because they kicked me out of the house with no shoes on. And I was literally broke. So it was so long ago that I went to a payphone to call my dad and say, it was like that moment where you're like, I heard a voice say, if you don't get clean, you will die. And in that moment, I went to the payphone. That's how long ago it was. And I called my dad who had adopted me, and I said, please help me. Please bring me home. And he lived in Wisconsin. I was in LA. And he said, get your ass to the airport in the morning. There'll be a ticket.
What do you think it is about hitting rock bottom
Yeah.
that leads to the breakthrough? Because I've interviewed several people who have
Yeah.
also said the same thing, whether
Yeah.
it be with drugs or alcohol.
Yeah.
It isn't until you get to that horrible, horrible place where you get so sick of yourself
Yeah.
and you get so sick of all of your own excuses that you have no choice but to really look at yourself now.
That's right. And I feel like it is that, I always say it's like when you realize you have no other option or you will end up dead. It's like, what's the other thing? There's a saying by Anais Nin, I always butcher her name, when the pain of blossoming becomes greater than the pain staying shut or closed, it's about a rose blooming, you will finally seek help. So it's like when the pain of staying stuck is greater than the pain of actually doing what it takes to open up and become, right? You will take action. And that's kind of where I was. I couldn't do another line of misery. I just couldn't. And I was craving being healthy and whole again.
What was the first step in recovery for you?
So at that point, it was going back. Well, I flew back to Wisconsin and I went right into a detox. So it was a 72-hour detox where you're inpatient, you're in the hospital basically, and they're watching you, supervising you, and letting the drugs get out of your system. Then when you come out of that detox, you have options. You can either go right into a rehab center if you have the funds or the ability to get into one, or you can go about just joining AA and try to get clean, right? If you make that choice. I was fortunate that my dad put me into an inpatient facility. And so I went into a 28-day program. And it was, a little bit tough at first because you're still like feeling like, why did I do this to myself? I want back out. And then finally I just resigned myself and I turned it over. I'm like, okay, I need this.
You just gave over. You surrendered.
I just gave over. Yeah, and I just quit fighting and I just let it happen. And I stayed in Wisconsin for a year and a half and I got a job and I started they always say in the first year of sobriety, you never want to be back in the same place, hanging out with the same friends, seeing the same things, being triggered by the same things that you were in when you were using. And so it was beautiful that I stayed in Wisconsin for a year and a half and kind of got a foundation. And then I came back home to LA and I realized, though, that I was still empty inside. Even now the drug was gone and it was more prevalent that I was unhappy because I had nothing to mask the pain.
Was that the first time you were really seeing what was going on internally?
Yeah.
Instead of trying to numb it?
100%. 100%. And so I tried to fake it till I make it. Right? I had started running while I was in Wisconsin. It was became my new drug. And so I trained for a marathon. So when I got back, I had already had it in my sights to do the LA marathon. I came back, I did that marathon. I'm like, okay, I'm going to dive all into fitness and health and do all the things. And so I started lifting, I started eating clean, I started running was my new thing. And I literally became obsessed about everything the opposite of what I had been doing to my body and my mind. And I got a job and I started working. And this whole thing came about finally the company I was working at, they let us all go. They let the whole company go. They were closing. But while I was there, I noticed I was coaching my coworkers, telling them how to eat healthier, telling them what I was doing. And they were all like, your body looks great. What are you doing in the gym? What are you doing to change? And so I started coaching them and sharing my tips. And I'm like, this really makes me feel good inside. So the day that I got my pink slip from the company, I got this big severance package. I've been there 2 years or 2.5 years. And I had all this money. And I'm like, now what do I do? I know I don't want to go back to a job where they could pull the rug from me ever again. So I don't want to go back to a company. And I would love to work for myself, but what do I do? And I was like, personal training. And that was the first time I thought of doing fitness. Yeah, I found purpose. I'm like, I want to share what I learned, what I know can save and change a life with anyone that'll listen. So I got certified, I started getting clients, and then little by little, I built a reputation and a name, and I started getting celebrity clients and celebrity pro athletes. And That was the beginning.
How did it develop into
Yeah.
personal development?
Yeah, great question, because here's the beautiful thing, that when, no matter, I had six-pack abs, I was ripped, I was shredded, I had celebrity clients, I was on the cover of magazines, I had a national commercial running for Gatorade, I was like making money and had all the things.
Mm-hmm.
And at 30, I was like, I'm still miserable inside. I have
Because
everything.
it's mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
can't just focus on one when
Yeah.
you're broken in the other areas.
That's right. So I always said, so I had six-pack abs, but I had a zero-pack in my heart because I didn't connect to me yet. And so what I did was I was focusing on the outside, which I rocked that. Oof, I had that down. But my inside was empty and broken still because I didn't do the work. I just got clean. It was like basically I was a dry drunk. I got clean. I got off the cocaine. I was no longer using, but I didn't heal what made me reach for it in the first place.
Right.
So at 30, I was literally broken still. And I found this coach who I met through Gold's Gym, which was where I was a trainer. And one of the women that I trained with there was like, you have to come see this woman. She's amazing. She does these groups every Tuesday night, and it's really beautiful and opens you up. And I'm like, that's exactly what I need. Where? How? I'm coming. And so I started going to this weekly Tuesday night group. And this woman's name was Mona Miller. And she was my angel on the planet. And when I met her, when I saw her, I was like, that's the woman I want to learn from. Anything she's teaching, I want to learn it. And she had a wait list about 6 months long, but I told her assistant, I go, put me on her list. I want in with her. I want to see that woman. And finally I got in. And when I met her, my whole life changed.
What did you learn then?
I learned that the reason why I was so unhappy was because I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel like I deserved to be here. And the reason I didn't feel that was because I had been bounced around, because I had no stability, because I wasn't raised by a loving parent, like one that was my rock. I had no comfort. I had no stability, affection, all those things I missed. And I realized that I internalized that. And I thought it meant, I guess I'm not lovable. I guess I'm not worthy. It makes me... It was really what it was. And so my coach Mona taught me to do inner child healing and reparenting. And that was the beginning. And through that, I found self-love. Through that, I found worthiness. Through that, I felt my spirit come alive. And I always say, I used to have six-pack abs, but now I have an 8-pack in my heart, and I'll take that any day over the abs. I got a 2-pack. I don't suck in my abs, but I literally gave up the abs for my heart.
I mean, it's a pretty good trade-off.
Yeah.
When you look back now at the inner child work, how old was the little girl you were talking to?
Yeah, she was like 3.
She was 3?
She just wanted somebody to say, I feel you, I see you, I'm right here, I got you. And I used to say, come here, baby girl, I got you. I got you. And that's why my saying when I sign off on all my videos is, you got this. And I'm saying that to my community, but I'm also saying that to me. Yeah.
Because it really does start with the self.
Yeah.
Unless you have that self-trust and that self-sovereignty, self-mastery, the world is a scary place regardless of how old you are.
Yeah. Yeah. And, all the way up until that little girl that I still I have a picture of her by my fireplace where I meditate every morning, and I framed like a picture of me at 2, and I got my hand in my mouth and I got this little smile on my face. And every time I look at that picture, I'm like, there you are. That's the essence of me. And all the other bullshit that happens to us after those 0 to 6 or 0 to 7 are the most formative years, but our essence is in 0, 1, 2, 3, like when we're curious and we're wondering and we're going to take on the world, and we have no fears, no judgment. And everything that happens after that period is where we create walls and masks and boundaries and the other selves that are really not even our truth to protect us from the world and life and people.
It's really about peeling that all back, right?
That's
and
exactly
getting back to the little girl.
Bingo. Yep.
And now letting her free in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's exactly what I say. It's about peeling away the layers that we've masked and put over our essence. Yeah. And when we strip all that back, the truth is, there we are at 2 with that curious look in our eyes, with that love in our eyes, with that trust and faith and hope and excitement. But if we don't do that work, we go through life a version of ourselves that isn't our truth. And that's why I believe people are really unhappy today. Mostly. I'd say mostly it's that.
So when you started doing the work,
Yeah.
what changes did you start to see in yourself? How were you moving through the world differently now?
Yeah. Confidence. Um, not putting myself last on the list. Standing up for what I believe in, finding my voice. I didn't have a voice before. I mean, if you look at my old pictures, like I'm standing there with a badass look. I'm ripped, I'm shredded, and I got a look on my face. But like, if you look in my eyes, there's not what you see now when I do a picture or do a photo shoot. I have a depth to me that I didn't have then. I have a wisdom. I have courage. I'm braver. I'm kinder to me first and then everyone around me. I'm more loving. Yeah. I kind of melt now really easy, whereas before I never cried at anything. I was afraid to cry. Now I cry like on a dime.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
7 days a week.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the funny thing I always say when I first worked with that coach, we would talk on the phone, and she wasn't really a therapist, so we had like a different relationship. And I worked on things for 41 days straight. And I remember one point saying to her, I have literally cried for 41 days straight. Every day I've cried. It was either a letter I had to write or a journaling entry or a forgiveness thing or a fuck you letter to something in life or a forgiveness letter or a dear fear letter or a dear imposter letter or dear anger. And I was just releasing for 41 days straight. And at the end of those 41 days, I felt so light. Like I had let go of 100 pounds extra armor I've been carrying.
And that's forgiveness.
Yeah. Well, it's forgiveness. It's self-worth. It's self-love. It's like I belong here. Like the ability to take up space.
Right.
There's a freedom in that where you're not apologizing for sitting in a chair because you realize you deserve it.
Yeah, you matter.
Yeah.
You deserve to be here.
Yes. Yeah.
What was, looking back now to the work that you did, what was sort of the game changer for you that really shifted something?
Yeah. I think it was the first thing I think is the commitment and the willingness to do the work, to not be afraid of it, to not go, oh, I'll do that later. I'll do that tomorrow. It can wait. But to make the decision to say, I matter enough to do this work. And then to actually stick with it and do it.
Right.
Because it's painful. I'm not going to lie. Those tears were beautiful and magical and they healed me, but they were painful when I was in it. It was shame. It was regret. It was fear. It was anger. It was feeling like, how could someone let me go? How could someone not love me? All of those things. And reconciling with that and making peace with all that is painful.
Yeah.
But on the other side of it is like this freedom.
It is.
Yeah.
I say it's the 3 C's.
Yeah.
First, it starts with consciousness.
Yes.
To make the decision to change.
Yes.
And then it's consistency.
That's right.
And curiosity without judgment of yourself.
Yes.
And of the world.
Yeah.
If you can remove the judgment and really start to peel it all back, whether it's through journaling, through crying, through therapy, through anything, that's going to bring the unconscious right in front of you so you can look at it.
Agreed, 100%. And I'll add to that I think it's about, I always say that our emotions, our feelings that we've stuffed, right? If you can imagine, we stuff like a volcano. We're like all ready to erupt on this planet, I think. I think so many people out there just need a good catharsis of emotions. But we've been all stuffing things down since we were little because life and society, and you're supposed to, don't show those feelings. And so we stuff. But then these emotions and these feelings are really just messengers. They just want to tell us something. And they need airtime. And all they need is to let a little bit out, a little bit at a time, so that we take off the pressure cooker and let it out and let it say what it needs to say and set it free. So listen to the message, hear it, process it, feel it, cry, scream, yell, journal, beat the shit out of a pillow with a bat, whatever you have to do to give it an expression, learn from it, and then let it go.
And what did you learn about yourself that changed you?
That I'm more powerful than I ever thought I was, that I'm more resilient than I ever imagined, that I'm deserving to be here, that my voice needs to be heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when you decided to start taking on clients as a life coach yourself. How did that happen?
Oh, well, so I've been doing kind of this sort of work for about 10 years. When I discovered breath work actually was the catalyst of me. I always say, like, I used to work from the outside in. I could help you get a six pack. I could help you run up a flight of stairs like you're a badass. But I couldn't fix the part that when you were sitting alone at home or putting your head on the pillow at night, you were crying your eyes out. That part I couldn't fix because I needed to work from the inside out, not the outside in. And so I switched from being the outside in coach to the inside out coach 10 years ago, where I was like, I know that my clients are hurting. I know people are hurting. Even the celebrities I train are hurting. The pro athletes that are badasses are hurting inside. And I can't tell them because I don't have a tool. All I have is some weights to give them. And I'm not qualified yet to show them that it starts on the inside. Then do the outside stuff. And I didn't have a tool. So I discovered breathwork 10 years ago. And I was like, the first time I did breathwork, I was like, what the fuck just happened? My whole world changed. It was conscious circular breathing, different than meditative breathing, which is very calming and peaceful. But conscious circular breathing rocks your world. It's intentional. It's meant to stir stuff up. And when I discovered that 10 years ago, I was like, holy shit. This is the door in to help people see what's going on inside so that I can start being a coach to help them do that work. And I had learned from my coach 30 years ago tools, and I'd been studying the work since 30 years ago. But I was kind of keeping it to myself. It was like my own little laboratory experiment on me. And then, as I did the breath work, I started like introducing some of the other things I knew besides breath work, like anger rinsing and journaling and meditation and affirmations, which is my own version of affirmations. And I started introducing it little by little, and my clients were getting results. And I'm like, wow, I have something here. But I know that if I do this style of breathing, it most always evokes stuff. Could be trauma, could be grief, could be pain, could be anger, could be fear, could be letting go of that ex you've been holding on to for years. It will stir stuff up so that you have an opportunity to become aware of it and then free it. So I always say it's the fastest way back to good, that breath, conscious circular breathing. So rather than, and I've had people say, it's like 20 years of talk therapy in one session.
Wow.
Because you could sit or lie or whatever you do in the session. And for 45 minutes it's usually 45 minutes to an hour of an experience, breath experience. And when you sit up, tears are usually coming out. Your head feels clear. You feel light. You feel on point, on purpose. You suddenly know what you're supposed to do with your life. You want to forgive everyone. I've had people say, I just want to go home and hug my entire family.
I want to do this breath work now.
Let's go. We should do it next.
How long does it take?
Yeah, it's 45 minutes. We can set up. I can come back and do it for your audience if you like. But it is an intense experience. But almost every person that does it says, what just happened?
Wow.
I feel different. I've cracked open. I'm ready to go deeper. And so to me, it's like the sneaky way in to get people to break through trauma, break through stuckness, break through anger or fear. And so it's a really beautiful thing.
Essentially, the way that I understand it is that we're trying to bring mind, body, and spirit into alignment. Because what happens to us throughout our lives, trauma, it gets trapped.
Yep.
And we can sit in talk therapy for years. And I've heard you say this before, where you can't think your way out of certain things. You have to feel your way out of it.
Right.
So how do you help your clients feel their way out of their problems?
Yeah, that's such a beautiful question. Thank you for that. And that's the thing is like, and no disrespect to talk therapy, but I was in talk therapy before I met my life coach, Mona. And I would try therapy, but it just never cracked me open, so to speak. I always just felt like we were just rehashing and regurgitating what happened. And the problem is, like you said, everything is stored in our body. There's this book called The Body Keeps the Score, which is all about like everything that's ever happened lives in our cells, in our muscles, in our tissue, in our fibers, in our spirit, in our soul. And the only way I believe this, and people talk about it, to free ourselves from it is to release it through somatics. And somatic healing and somatic work is where we get to shake it out, move it out, scream it out, cry it out, use our hand and journal it out with even affirmations on top of that. There is a way to somatically release the feelings, obviously with the right facilitator, teacher, coach, to help you shed it from your body, release it, free it, so that you don't sit and talk therapy for 10 years talking about the same shit, but never feeling different.
Right. Are you finding more and more people are seeking these alternative ways of healing now, and why? And is there sort of an age or, something that some similarities that you're seeing amongst your clients? What's getting people to wake up?
Yeah, that's so great. That's actually real. And I don't know necessarily what's the catalyst. We could, hypothesize all kinds of things. Maybe COVID started it, right? Because of all the time that everybody had to ruminate about life and to try all kinds of things, because everybody went online and all kinds of things popped up to help people deal with stress, anxiety, fear. I do think probably COVID was a big catalyst for a lot of it. And I believe that and who knows, as we get older, we start to realize the old things we've been doing didn't work. And so let's try something different, because what's that? The definition of insanity is keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result, right? So maybe people are just realizing that the same old thing ain't working. And so they're open. I think that the more social media has helped, because the more people hear about the alternate ideas, we become open and aware and curious.
I read a quote recently, and I'd love your take on this. It said, I can't experience the world, but I can experience myself.
Yeah. Yes.
And really realizing that every experience, right, whether it's joy and if it's amplified joy, or if it's sadness and if it's amplified sadness, if you can get really curious about yourself, you are essentially experiencing everything.
That's right.
But it's really getting curious.
Yeah. And I love the word curiosity and curious and being curious, because that allows, that sparks the idea of a conversation or the openness to try something new. If we're never curious, if we're certain we know the answer, if we always know we're right, if everyone else is wrong and I'm right, then there's never an opening to try something new or find a new way, or even to debate about an idea. And so I believe that it starts with curiosity for sure. And I always say that everything we're seeing is through the lens that when I'm coaching clients, I pull out these rose-colored glasses that I have in my drawer, and I always put them on and I go, remember, you're seeing it through your lens right now. And if you were to take those off, there might be a different way to see it. Are you open to that, right? And so we have the lens that we see the world through because of what we've experienced and been through, and our ideas and our stories and the lies we've been told, but that we believe. And so it's beautiful to be curious, but be curious too that the lens you're looking through might need to be cleaned, or might need to be a different color.
And you have to place that separation, right, between I'm going to be curious about myself without judgment, and I'm only here to help myself.
That's right.
I think a lot of times people don't want to look at themselves because they don't want to admit that there's something wrong with them. And it doesn't have to be something wrong with you. It's just something you want to look at that's not sitting right.
That's right.
But it's we're scared to do that.
Yeah, I think that's it right there, is to not look at it like bad, wrong, right, or good.
Right, don't assign meaning.
Yeah, no meaning at all.
Just say, look, you were a shit.
Yeah.
Let's fix it.
Yes.
You don't have to always be this way, and it's okay.
That's
it's not your fault.
Yeah.
You don't know what you learned in life. You don't know where you pick that up. It's like when I look at my 6-year-old child and he says something bad, I'm not judging him.
Yeah.
I just think, I don't know where he learned that.
That's right.
So you have to look at yourself, right? It's part of the inner child work, and say, Alina, I don't know where you learned that, but let's go back and unlearn that now with love, without judgment. It's okay that you sometimes do bad things, or sometimes say bad things, or the wrong thing, or you don't feel right. Let's explore with kindness and love.
I love that. And I also say that we know our body always has given us clues. It's always given us a little nudge or a tap or a feeling in our tummy, or as soon as we say, speak, or do an action that doesn't feel good, doesn't mean it's wrong or bad or whatever, but it feels off. Our body will tell us, wait, check in. That's not aligned. And if we listen to those nudges and we get curious, that's the opportunity to go, that really felt icky. I feel like shit right now. What could I do better or different? And if we're open to exploring and wondering and getting curious, wow, What a magical world this would be if everybody would do that. And then make amends if we did hurt somebody, if we did do something that quote unquote doesn't feel right. Be willing to make the amends and go, I always say, like, I am just a freaking work in progress till the day I die. I will never figure it all out. And I hope I don't ever think I know it all. And I will keep learning and studying, and I'll keep falling on my face and then getting up and dusting off and saying, that sucked. I was a real asshole right there. And then going, but now I'm going to be better. And every day, every breath is a chance to be a better version of me. Right? So.
And not to write yourself off as, I'm flawed and I'm just going to be this way, so now let me go self-medicate and just count my days until I'm done. No, you can change, and change can happen quickly. And I think relationships are sometimes the best mirrors. And you coach a lot of your clients through relationships. So I really want to talk about that, because I think that when you're doing the work, sometimes the best way to witness yourself is through a relationship to see what comes up.
Yep. So 3 years ago, a little bit over 3 years now, I came out of a relationship where I was with someone that I actually thought was I could see myself marrying, being a life partner with. And it ended in a really toxic, dysfunctional way where I saw behaviors that, if we want to put labels on things and call people toxic or narcissistic, I could. But I'm also trying to get off of that crutch that we're all using, where everybody's a narcissist and everybody's toxic and everybody's this. And while that serves in some cases, and it could be true, it doesn't serve us to just label people and blame someone else. It caused me to have to look inside, but I didn't look inside right away. At first I was like blaming and she did this and they did that. And now I get to 3 years later look and go, I attracted that human. I pulled that person into my world. And there's something in me that said I deserved that kind of treatment. There's something in me that said, it's okay to do this for a long time, which only ended up being 4 months, but it felt long. And it was 4 months too long. And when I got clear that that wasn't okay behavior, I ended it really quickly. And while I understand that it was fast for me, some people are in these kind of relationship for years. I have clients coming to me now saying, I'm 32 years with a quote unquote narcissist, and they've been abusive. I'm finally leaving. And I don't know what it was in me that said 4 months is too long, and where some people go 32 years is not long enough. I don't know, but I had that thing that said, no, I will not stand for this treatment. And so I ended that. But it wasn't just that. It was a whole series of things that happened. It was right after COVID that my business changed before I moved into this exact line of work. There was a period where the breath work stopped and the life coaching hadn't begun yet. And I was totally not sure what I was going to do with my life, with my business, with my work. Money was drying up. I was running out of funds, and COVID really threw me for a loop, right? So there was my business changing, and I was literally broke, almost broke again. I had this toxic relationship, which I can label toxic because it became that way. I lost my dog of 12 and a half years, my little sweet baby Yorkie, Butch Cassidy. All of this kind of happened in sequential, and I'll explain why that's important. So I lost my dog. And then I had a friend who was, at the time, my best friend, who betrayed me in a business deal, which helped me then slowly also run out of money. And it was like a $10,000 break in a friendship and then a betrayal. So I got what I call stacked with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things all at once. And had I had these things happen 1 year at a time, no problem. I could move through them. But they all happened like within a series of 6 months. And so it's anyone who goes through a stacking of a lot of traumatic events all at once, it's too much to bear. And so I broke. I broke again. I hit a rock bottom, but this time it wasn't from drugs. It was from life. And it was because of those series of things became too much to bear. And I was literally on my knees, and I was like, I don't have one more get the fuck back up in me. I literally didn't. And I prayed every single day to give me the faith to believe there was a reason why I was going through all this. And I couldn't see it. I couldn't see the answer. I believe in God, but my faith was a little bit estranged, and I had been like wishy-washy with it at that point. But every day I was praying, please God, why is this happening? And what am I supposed to do with this wisdom I know I have in me? I know I have this gift. And I didn't have an answer. And days after day after day, I was crying and on my knees and like running out of money and not sure what to do. And one day I was finally on my knees for the umpteenth time, and I heard like a little whisper or a nudge say, I promise you, if you get back up one more time, you are going to teach from this lesson and you will build something from it. So just get up one more time. Just trust me one more time. And something happened on that day where I said, okay, I hear you. And I got back up and I went back to the drawing board with every tool I've ever used over 30 years. All the things I've ever done. I wrote all the letters again. I did forgiveness again. I went back to inner child healing again. I did reparenting again. I wrote forgiveness letter, fuck you letter, everything. And it took me, I think it was like 2.5 weeks. I breathed my butt off for that entire time. And after 2.5 weeks, I was like a new person. And for the first time, I showed up online on social media with like this new me. And I just hit record. And I made one video after another, after another, after another. And something happened. And they started going viral-ish, you know.
Your energy is different now than when I first came across
Yeah.
your content.
So thank you. And then I just showed up and I just used my voice and I started speaking about my beliefs. And I just shared what I knew and what I had learned. And little by little, people started raising their hand going, hey, do you coach? Do you teach this? And I started saying yes. And I put together this program that I now coach my clients with through everything I've ever gone through, not 3 years, but like through my whole 30 years of life.
So why do you think you had that second rock bottom moment? What was it trying to teach you? What was life trying to teach you? And what did you learn?
I think it was to learn, because I'd always wanted to go online and share some of my thoughts. But back then I had imposter syndrome. I'm like, I'm just a fitness chick. I don't have enough to say. I've done good in the field, but I don't, no one's going to listen to me. Everything's been said before. Who am I? I'm getting old. I was all these judgments. I had all these voices in my freaking head. And I just kept stopping myself. This was like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, where I wanted to do it and got scared and didn't do it. And then I think I had to break again. To go, no, you know enough. No, you've been through enough. And your voice really is a voice. Get up and show them.
I love that. You said I had to break again because oftentimes it's the breaking that reveals the light.
Yeah, I had to break again.
And, you know, this reminds me of like the David and the Goliath story. Because when a challenge comes for you, you can either bend or you can bow to it and say, what is this going to teach me? And if you can truly surrender and get quiet, like you said.
It made me cry because that's what it feels like. It felt like I had to be broken open again.
Because you were getting in your own way.
Yeah.
Telling yourself,
for sure.
I shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I'm too old.
I was scared.
Who's going to listen to me? I'm not good enough. I mean, we all think these things, right?
Yep.
One way or another. But it's really like, no. If there's a desire to do something, maybe you need to really have a hard look at yourself and what is it that you're blocking you?
Yeah. And so it taught me a lot. It taught me to, I talk about imposter syndrome. Like, please don't let that be the reason you don't hit go. Please don't let that voice in your head, which is, by the way, usually bullshit, be the reason you don't hit go. You don't love again. You don't write that book. You don't start that foundation. You don't go do that project you've been thinking of.
How does it feel now to be a woman in your 60s who's now actually doing the thing? What's your message to other women who might be grappling with the same thing?
It feels really awesome. It feels like I am so proud of myself. There's a pride. There's a like that little girl in me that was like, you can do it. She was shouting, going, come on, Kordecki, go. We got this. But I was like, no, we don't. And now I'm like, yes, we do. Yeah. And it feels really good. It feels really good.
I'm so happy for you. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I really want to learn more about what you do with your clients now. You specialize in healing after heartbreak.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things people deal with when they come to you?
Yeah. I think, the biggest thing, and it's coming in droves right now, is people saying, I lost myself. That is one of the biggest things that people say. I lost myself. I gave away all my power. I lost my voice. I don't feel worthy. I don't feel lovable. I had a woman say to me, she's 50-something, 52, and she's like, I've been with somebody for 32 years who's physically and emotionally abusive, and your words, your videos, your content is giving me the strength to start to feel like I could leave him. And I'm just like, woman, leave now. Why do you need to start to think? Get the fuck out. And I just want to grab her through the video and say, leave now. Why do you need to? If someone's been abusive for 32 years, that's all the proof you need. They're not changing.
No, but most people have that duality, right? They're not all bad.
Yes.
And they're not all good.
I know.
But how do you get women to find identity again, or your clients, not just women, but men and women, to find identity again, especially after a 10-year, 20-year, 30-year relationship where they've given all of themselves?
I think it starts with the first thing I do, and thank God for breath, because I use breath always as a, what's the word I want to use? Definer. The first thing I tell almost every person that works with me to do when we start a session is we close our eyes, we take a deep breath, and often I'll say, put your hands on your heart, and we're going to ask you a question. And the question is, do you feel like you deserve and are worthy of a second chance, of a second love, of a second act? And listen for the answer. And the minute that we get quiet enough and we've closed our eyes, we get out of the thoughts and out of our head and out there, and we go inward, especially when we touch our heart. The answer, it almost always will bring tears. A question like that, it's not always that exact question, but any question that makes them connect back to the truth of themselves. Often people will have tears immediately. And as soon as they open their eyes after that question, their eyes are glistening, there's a light back on. And from there, there's suddenly a, hell yes, I deserve it.
Yeah.
Hell yes. Because it's usually just because we're stuck in the spin zone, which is up here. We're not connected to our heart.
A game changer for me was realizing it's never about the other person.
Yeah, it's not about blame.
It's always about your own accountability. What did you do to attract that?
Yes.
What did you do to stay in that? And now what can you do to change yourself?
Yeah.
I was in I don't want to say a relationship. I was dating a guy who I really liked for maybe it was short, 6 weeks. And I pushed him away because it got too real too soon. Pushed him away totally. And the whole time I kept thinking, if he reaches out again, even though I'm the one who stopped talking to him, I'm going to be different.
Yeah.
Because I had that moment of like a 2-month break where it was a lot of accountability, where I thought, if you're not speaking up for yourself, if you are not being open to receiving from someone, if you're not ready to be vulnerable, girl, that's on you. It's not about the other person anymore. And so I put it out there into the universe. I said, if he contacts me again, I'm going to be different. And sure enough, he did. And I am very different now in this second.
Are you still, you're still with him?
Well, we've started dating again.
Okay.
And it feels very different. Not because he's different. I'm different.
You're different. That's right.
Because I chose to hold accountability, right? A mirror to myself saying, this isn't even that serious of a relationship, but you're going to sabotage it because you're not as open as you want to be.
That's right.
And so it is really all about accountability.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And so, of course, that is a huge part of it, right? Taking ownership of where you attracted that person, where you ignored the red flags. I always talk about that. Like, we all can make those red flags look maroon or purple.
I've done that too with other people.
Yeah, exactly. And so I always say, where did you see the signs, but you ignored it? Where did you say it's not that bad and you let it happen? Where did you look the other way? Where did you not listen to your gut? Right. And so what about you needs to be revisited and looked at? And then, do you believe you deserve it? Like, it just starts with that question. And I think the reason why and I said this to a client the other day, I think the reason why a lot of us are just unhappy and miserable and depressed and lonely is because we've disconnected, we've unplugged from ourself. And I always look for my AirPods, the AirPods case, right? Like, you put those little guys in there and you close the lid and when they're out of charge and you put them back in their case and they charge back up. And then when we want them again, we take them out, we put them in our ears and they're full of charge. But this is kind of what happens to us. It's like we've been taken out of the case, which is our heart, our spirit, our truth, our connection to source, or anything that lights us up. And we've been taken out of that case, our AirPod charger case, and we lose charge. And then the minute that we reconnect, put ourselves back in the case to our heart, our spirit, our truth, our passion, our love, our light, nature, affirmations, journaling, meditation, as soon as we connect back, we're aligned again. We're on fire again. And I think most people are just disconnected and out of that charge in their case. But if we could all plug back in, everything I think on this planet would change.
Of course.
We start there.
Yeah.
Plug back in.
I totally agree. I think people show you their red flags, but it's because we don't have the discernment to say immediately almost, I'm sorry, that's just not for me.
Yeah. And having strong boundaries and
having
holding
strong
the boundary.
boundaries, right.
And not feeling, just one thing I talk about is like, you're not a bitch or an asshole because you say a boundary. You're not controlling. Well, it depends on whether it's a boundary or a barrier. And there's a distinct difference. Barriers are usually from trauma and from fear of being seen or fear of being vulnerable. So we put up barriers, which might be what you were doing with the guy before.
That's what I did.
Yeah. And boundaries are from love and from empowerment and from this is what I need to feel healthy and whole. And this is what's going to keep me sane and safe and a better person for us to be engaging, you to be engaging with, right? So the boundary is healthy. The barrier is usually from a wound. And so if you set a boundary and you do it in the right way with a beautiful communication skill and not attacking or defensive or there's a way to have a conversation about boundaries that's healthy. And then if you maintain it, then you show people, I meant it. I wasn't just playing. I mean that boundary, and I'm going to request that you hold it.
Right.
And if you don't, I already said what that would mean. And then you have to honor it.
And the best way to hold a boundary is first by acknowledging self-love, right?
Yes.
I deserve
That's right.
something great.
Yep.
So therefore, these are the boundaries, essentially a roadmap on how to love me.
Yeah.
And I'm asking you kindly to honor that.
Yeah.
Whereas the opposite, and I've been this girl.
Yes.
You see the red flags. Mind you, this one guy didn't have any red flags. It wasn't even about that. I just ran because of my own trauma.
Right.
But how fear shows up is when you see a red flag, you ignore it, you try to play the game, and then resentment builds and all of a sudden you cut and run because you're so scared of getting hurt.
That's right.
That's not a boundary anymore.
Yeah. No. Yeah, that's not a boundary. You didn't set a boundary. You just kept seeing it and getting afraid of it and then didn't speak up. Like you said, you didn't use your voice to say, hey, this is not working. This feels weird or off to me. And you didn't use your voice. You shut yourself down and you suppressed and repressed what was the truth, which then creates resentment. And then creates anger, and then it can be a shutdown. Or I always say two things happen when we suppress stuff. Either we explode, meaning we explode on the people we love, and it's usually not to the people that deserve it. And no one deserves explosion, right? But usually you explode on people you love. Or you implode, meaning you hurt yourself, you act out, you cut, you use, you numb, you just go quiet or silent, you abuse yourself or you abuse others because that anger needs expression.
How do we not do that?
How do we know? By acknowledging, by using our voice, by saying, being really clear on when you're being hurt, when something is overstepping, and saying, first checking in, like acknowledging to yourself, like, holy shit, why do I feel so yucky right now? Why is my heart hurt? Why is my belly hurt? Those are signs. Your body is saying, hello, listen, there's a sign for you. I'm going to make you feel yucky in your stomach. I'm going to make your heart beat fast. I'm going to make you sweat. I'm going to make you feel scared to go over there. And it's a sign. But
Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy, yeah.
I've experienced that for the first time. I'm not going to lie. I was also briefly dating someone else. Sounds like I have such a stacked roster.
Woman, here's my card. Let's chat after.
But I mean, I have to bring these up because it's just for the sake of workshop. He had so many red flags, and I excused one after the other for, I don't know why. I think I was just curious for the experience, you know, because you have to do that too. I was in a relationship 16 years, so I have to witness myself in these experiences. But every time I would hang out with this person, I would go home with a stomach ache.
Yes.
I'm like, no, something is wrong here.
Yeah.
And sometimes people confuse that with butterflies.
That's right. 100%.
How can we know the difference between the two?
Okay, I always talk about that. It's such a good one because butterflies often is a feeling of we've had chaos like growing up. We were used to chaos as a kid. We were always around a traumatic upbringing or a household where there was fighting and anger and off energy. And that was stimulation. Our nervous system was always lit up by a stimulus, right? And so we had this reaction in our bodies that said, this is normal because it happened so many times in a row. And so we liken the idea of chaos or butterflies to normalcy. And we think, oh my God, this is my person. I suddenly feel that butterfly feeling, but often, not always, often what it is we're feeling the same kind of trauma response or the same kind of scared feeling of fighting or the crazy energy in the house in our body. And our body is our nervous system is creating a reaction. So often butterflies can be because it's normal. It feels normal. It's what we used to have. And we're like, holy shit, this is that feeling I used to get as a kid in the house with the fighting and the yelling. But sometimes it's real. But I think, we have to be able to ask ourselves questions and being in touch with ourselves and in tune with ourselves enough to say, first getting quiet. Like when you notice that butterfly, like if I was your coach and you would have called me and said, I'm feeling really weird in my tummy. The first thing I would have said is put your hand on your heart and your hand on your belly, close your eyes and ask yourself, is this a healthy tummy feeling? Or is it a weird, something's wrong, red flag tummy feeling? And I think that we're all intelligent enough to know just by asking that question, should I be alarmed? Should I be on alert? Is this healthy or unhealthy? And get quiet enough to listen. And I promise you, most of us know the answer. Right. Now, there's cases where we don't because we've been so traumatized and we've been so wounded and we've never done any healing work where we can't tell the difference. And that's when we need to have a coach or a therapist or a facilitator to help us discern. But often our body is wise enough to go, no, this doesn't feel good. This isn't like, oh my God, he's so awesome. Or, oh my God, I love what he just did. It's like, holy shit, run for the hills.
Right.
And it's just about asking the right questions and listening for the answer.
Someone said something to me recently. I said, well, that feels like home. And they said, but what was your home like as a child?
Boom.
And I said, it was kind of turbulent.
There you go.
So my idea of home, I would equate to the turbulence.
Crazy.
And so it took a lot of rewiring for me to now associate differently. And that's why I was getting that
That's right.
unsettled feeling because my nervous system now doesn't want that.
Yeah, because you rewired a lot of things. You broke some of the patterns. You taught it that safety feels like calm. Home feels like peace and nurturing. And I got you energy, not I'm going to beat the shit out of you energy if you don't listen. And that takes rewiring and relearning and having either a coach or a program or some way of revisiting that old stuff and teaching it new stuff.
Right, reframing it.
Yeah.
You talk a lot about self-love. What is real self-love?
Yeah.
And what isn't it? What isn't real self-love?
Wow, that's good. So to me, I'll speak from what I feel. Self-love, real self-love to me feels like I don't judge myself anymore. I don't beat myself up anymore. I don't instantly go to, what an asshole, what an idiot, you're so stupid, you're so wrong. Self-love feels like even when I screw up, it's okay. Self-love feels like I'm going to always be curious. I'm always going to be learning. I'm going to always be growing, and I'm going to screw up some more, and then I'm going to redo, and I'm going to do that a lot. And self-love feels like a warm hug, right? From me.
I came to that understanding too, because it's also giving over to the idea that we're not here to build the biggest resume. We really are here to understand emotional regulation and self-mastery. That's your purpose on this planet, aside from relationships and all the things, right? At the very root of it, it's really about understanding you and becoming the best version of you. And so if you can look at it like that, you're just here to improve without judgment.
Yep. I always say this is one big school. We're in the school of you. It's the school of you and interaction and in relation to other people and other things that we'll come upon. But it's always about how can we keep refining this soul that we're all, our soul's journey, so to speak.
Talking about undoing, forgiveness as freedom. Who have you had to forgive in your life?
Oof, that's a good question. I've had to forgive, well, there's a lot of people. I had to forgive my mom. Because for many years I was wounded and I blamed and I felt like I got gypped from a good childhood and didn't have a mom. And so for many years, and certainly from 30 on, that hasn't been the case, but before that. So I forgave my mom many years ago for doing, I always say she did the best she could with what she was given, with what she knew. And the biggest gift I gave myself was self-compassion, because through self-compassion, I was able to, and compassion for others, forgive me for having that anger towards her for many years. And then I was able to forgive her, but then see her through the eyes of compassion. Like, I know my mom didn't have a good childhood. So she was a 5-year-old little girl walking the alleys looking for food because her parents abandoned her. And I know a little bit about her story. So I know she didn't do it on purpose. And so when I forgave her, that was freedom. Then I had to forgive my bio dad, who didn't want me when he heard that my mom was pregnant with me. And so she raised me as a single mom. And I had to forgive him because I met him at 40. And he rejected me again at 40. And he said, no, I still don't want a relationship with you. I had to find him. I was like so curious. Who's this guy that has part of my genes? I'm part of him. And I wanted to know him. That's a whole long story for another podcast of how I tracked him down and found him and got in front of him. He's a therapist. So I sat in his office and I said, I want a relationship with you. I don't know if you want to know me, but I want to know you. And he's like, no, I don't want one with you. And so I got rejected again and I had to forgive him because I was angry for a while about that.
I mean, what did that feel like to sit in front of your father who says, I don't want a relationship with you?
There's a whole lot of feelings. Like I said, we probably don't have time for that one, but there was some closure for me. I needed to see him and be able to ask him, does he want a relationship? And then when I found that he didn't, it was painful. It was hurtful. It was interesting how the whole thing happened. And like I said, it's a long story, so I won't get into the whole story, but there was a moment where, as I was watching him talk to me, and before I told him, he didn't know I was his daughter. I went in, I posed as a client, potential new client. So, and I had a little tape recorder in my purse, and I wanted to tape because I thought, what if he rejects me? I'll never have anything. And I wanted his voice, and I wanted to hear how he answered me. And so I had slipped this tape recorder in my purse, and I was asking questions and pretending like I had actually my partner with me at the time. We both came in. It was, I made it as a pseudo session where I had questions about intimacy and relationship, and I was with my partner and we were thinking about having a kid, and so I wanted to know more about what's wrong with me, why can't I get intimate, and so I posed it like that, and then halfway through I had told my partner that I'm going to turn to you, and at some point, if I feel like I want to tell him I'm his daughter, I'm going to turn to you and you can give me that, because I'm going to need some support. And so I turned to her at one point, and because I was listening to him talk, and I'm like, he's intelligent, he's wise, I see his jaw, he looks like me, I see how I got his nose. And I was like, I really like this guy, he's funny, he's witty. And I turned to her and I'm like, and I had tears in my eyes because I knew I was going to say something. I looked at her and she's like, yes, do it. And so I turned back to him and I said, I really think that part of why I'm a little bit broken inside is because I've never met my father. I don't know who my dad is. And I started to tear up and I was choking, and I said, and I have reason to believe he's you, that you're my dad. And he looked at me and he's like, you're going to give an old man a heart attack here. And he's like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And I said, well, my mom is. And I said my mom's name. And he's like, I do know her. I did have relations with her. I'm not going to lie. That did happen. And so then he got honest and he told me his version of the story. She had told me her version, and it wasn't good what she said about him and what he had done. And he told his side and I listened, and he said, you do look a bit like me. He goes, what do you want to know? And so he proceeded to share info about, I didn't know anything about my history of his side of the family. He told me things about us and my medical history. And so we went on and on for a little bit. And then at the end of the session, I stood up and I said, how much do I owe you? And he's like, no, this one's on me. And,
nice.
Yeah. And I said, do you want to have a relationship with me? Do you want to stay in my life? And he looked at me and he said, I don't. I have a new family. I have a new life. And I don't want to do that.
Wow.
And so I said, okay. And I think we gave each other a hug.
I mean, that goes back to what I was saying. It's a part of accountability.
Yeah.
When you say it's not about the other person, they can be whatever they want.
Yeah.
I'm going to choose not to be in control. I'm going to choose not to be under that control anymore.
Yes.
I grew up without my father too. Yeah. He left when I was 9. And we have a decent relationship, but it's not like a great one.
Yeah.
I will send him texts all the time saying, Daddy, I forgive you. And it's not for him, it's for me.
I love that.
Because I've genuinely put it away.
That's right. Yeah. And I would say, let's not even use the word put it away, because that's almost like hiding it. Let's set it free.
Set it free.
Right? I love that. Just a little bit different tweak on the words.
Free.
I always say our words matter, right? Every single thing out of our mouth matters. And so one thing I always do with my clients is try to catch any word. Even I'm always catching my words. I'm like, cancel. And then I'll reframe it, because there's always maybe a lighter way to say the words, right? But exactly that. Like, as soon as I released the anger, the bitterness, the wounded me, the poor me energy at 30, which was part of what I did with my coach, Mona. As soon as I did that, there was a lightness like I can't even describe.
Right. And you're able to look at your life more objectively. Now, when I look at my relationships and how my relationship with my father really influenced all those relationships, I'm not doing it resentfully or angry at him. I could just say, well, when I sat in the car next to him when I was 10 years old and heard this is why I allowed myself then at 22 and 23 and 32 to sit in the passenger seat and take this.
That's right.
And so it's all just a matter of now having these things in front of me so I can look at it, not be angry at it, not be mad at it, just look at it.
It's information.
And again, set it free.
Yeah. Just, I always say it's just information.
And it's empowering.
Yeah.
No, I totally feel what you're saying, because I do think if you can fall in love with your own story, even if it's flawed, and truly see yourself as the main character in your own story, and I'm just going to really enjoy this life and learn as much as I possibly can.
That's what I'm doing.
Life really becomes a different place.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here today. This is so great.
Thank you for having me. Oh my God. I enjoy you.
Will you coach me?
Let's go. I got to do breath work with you. I'm going to take you through breath work.
Yeah, we should.
We got it.
Thank you so much, Rebecca.
You're so welcome. Thank you. I've loved it.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Breaking Through with Alina Obervian. For our community to grow, please like and share, and also leave a review on this episode. Of course, you can find me on social media and let me know what you'd like to talk about in future episodes. Nothing is off limits, so let's have some fun.